Now, it would be very easy for me to go off on one about pretty much everything that went wrong and the ramifications of the result that's just happened. But I am going to focus specifically on what I believe was a sheer lack of effort and lack of fight from a Manchester United team today. And what's most frustrating and most disappointing is that is now 5 out of the last 6 games where we've been outran and outworked. We got smashed by Liverpool because of it in the second half. We then had a fantastic performance against Real Betis in the first leg of our Europa League game. We were then outran and outworked by Southampton, which led to Casemiro ending up getting sent off by making a challenge that he shouldn't have had to make if people were running more. We eventually hung on to a 0-0 draw in that game. Second leg against Betis, we were outran, we were outworked, but thankfully Betis didn't really offer too much in terms of goal-scoring threat, and we were able to sneak a 1-0 win thanks to a wonder goal. Then we had the Fulham game, where we were outran and outworked and went 1-0 down. And thanks to absolute lunacy from Fulham, who got 2 players sent off and the manager sent off, ended up winning 3-1 and progressing into the FA Cup. And now we have today. And honestly, I cannot believe the lack of effort that I have seen from the players on the pitch today. I don't know what Erik ten Hag must be thinking, because he prides himself on having teams that run around, show effort, make themselves available for passes, quick flowing movement, high press, drive, determination, and I just saw absolutely none of that from any of our players today. And that then brings me on to the ramifications of the result, which is that, look, as soon as the Anfield game happened, we knew the title chances, if there were any in the first place, the title chances were over. So that then means that going into a game like today, we are essentially top of the race for the top 4. Because Man City and Arsenal are gone. We're then in 3rd place, and we have Newcastle, Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea, Brighton, whoever you want. All the teams then fighting for the top 4. But most importantly, we're at the top of that pile. So when we go away to Newcastle today, the primary focus must be to not lose, because you cannot lose to the teams that are around you. A draw today would have been a good result, in my opinion. Obviously, you want to win every game, but to draw against a team that are right on your tail and a team that if they beat you, go above you, a draw is the result that you need to get in order for it to be a good result. In order to do that, you have to do everything in your power to stop the other team from scoring. And that means working as hard as you possibly can to get back in and do your defensive duties. And I saw none of that from any of our attack-minded players today. Rashford and Antony stood on the halfway line, offered barely any support to Dalot and Shaw all game. Weghorst, who I normally applaud for running around so much, he wasn't doing anything. McTominay was on Bruno Guimaraes, which was an experiment that I would say kind of worked in the first half. Obviously, we needed to change it in the second half, but I think taking McTominay off of Guimaraes is then what allowed him to influence so much of the second half. So I would say the experiment was working relatively well from a defensive standpoint in the first half, albeit not working offensively. And then we allowed it to go awry defensively because McTominay went off Guimaraes. But the lack of effort to actually put yourself about and do your jobs to stop your biggest rival in terms of top 4 competition right now from scoring is absolutely shambolic today. And nothing sums that up more than the actual Newcastle goal. And I've got the screenshot right here. As you can see, there's the ball coming in. The cross has just come in. There is St. Maximan. I can't even remember who that is. I think it's Murphy. And then there is the eventual goal scorer, Willock. So you've got the 2 attack-minded players and you've got the goal scorer. Now, Varane has already let Willock go, so that's a concern. Whether or not Varane should have been picking up the guy over here, or whether or not he should have been picking up Willock is irregardless. Here's the problem. Here's Scott McTominay, who is supposed to be dealing with one of the attackers, and here is Jadon Sancho, who has allowed this much space to Alan St-Maximin. Now, Diogo Dalot has got too many people to deal with here. He has literally got 3 players to deal with at the back post. That situation should never arise on a football pitch. And granted, we've just lost the ball in midfield, but when you lose the ball in midfield, you work back and you get in there. Bruno was the one that lost it. He's not moved anywhere. Isak's just played that pass out there. Rashford's walking. McTominay's jogging. Shaw's jogging. Sancho's barely even moving because he realises it's already too late. Header comes back across. Varane's let Willock go. And we're 1-0 down. That in itself is bad enough. How you then respond to going 1-0 down is then another matter. And again, there just wasn't anything going for us. The passing, it was absolutely atrocious. And I mean that all game. Not just from when we went 1-0 down, all game. I've probably titled this along the lines of OLE ball is back. And they mentioned it on commentary in the first half, how this team over the last few weeks has started to slip back into the old habits that we saw under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They're lazy. They're sloppy on the ball. They're whining at all of these decisions. Like, who cares? Get up. Get on with the game. Do what you've been told. Do your jobs. And most importantly, keep the ball. And it was so poor in the midfield. Bruno, in particular, I thought he was atrocious. You know, they were talking about how Weghorst only had like 8 touches before he went off the pitch. But we couldn't get the ball to him. He's standing up there. Granted, for a player of his size, I'd expect him to win more headers, which he doesn't. But you've got to give this guy the ball. And we just weren't getting him the ball. Bruno kept giving it away. Even Sabitzer at times was giving it away. McTominay is not an attacking midfielder. So when the ball came into his feet, he was giving it away. Anthony, again, constantly going into his left foot. Never even attempting to go round the outside of Dan Burn. You've just got to be a little bit more creative. Show some more initiative. But again, he was giving the ball away. I don't know if Rashford still wasn't fit. Obviously, he's been on special medical training or whatever for his toe injury in America for the last 2 weeks while international duty was going on. He didn't put in any effort all game. He barely touched the ball. He wasn't a threat to Kieran Trippier the entire game, and considering how much he ripped Trippier to bits in the Carabao Cup final, it was incredibly disappointing to see how little he even attempted to take on Trippier, let alone get past him when he got the ball. So when the substitutions was made, I was like, okay, we're trying something different. We'll then see how this develops. And nothing changed. Still sloppy on the ball. Sancho gave it away as many times as he did anything with it after he came on. The other substitutes made little to no impact whatsoever. If you'd have told me that Martial was on the pitch from the moment Martial came on the pitch, I wouldn't have believed you. They were complaining about Weghorst not having touches. I'm not convinced Martial had any touches at all. Other than I think one time he dribbled it away from our own penalty area. He had no touches in the opposition half, I'm sure of that. And, honestly, the game goes on, and then the decision of Erik ten Hag to make the changes that he did for the second round of substitutions, I understand why. I just don't understand the actual timing and the execution of it. It didn't make a lot of sense. The players that he was taking off, you feel like needed to stay on. I understand putting Lindelof on for one of the fullbacks and going 3 at the back. Like you take Dalot off or something, you play, the 3 of them, and I'm even rambling now. But then the 2 mistakes that lead to the second goal. Luke Shaw making yet another needless challenge in a safe area of the pitch. His head has been absolutely gone since Anfield. He obviously got sent off for England. I thought he did okay today, Luke Shaw, considering that he was left hung out to dry by Marcus Rashford in that first half. I thought he defended relatively well, but again, with the game being stretched and the game being gone at 1-0 down, he's made a rash decision and he's needlessly fouled Sean Longstaff. And then, I'm going to moan about him again. I'm going to have to blame De Gea for the second goal in terms of how it's gone in. Obviously, Luke Shaw takes the primary blame for giving away a foul that he didn't need to give. But while Gary Neville and Martin Tyler were complaining about how we only had Victor Lindelof as a tall player on the pitch and he was the one out jumped by Callum Wilson, let's just bring the camera up again. Let's bring the still up once again, because look where Callum Wilson's headed that ball. He's 4 yards out in the middle of the goal. Where is David De Gea? Why is he here? Why is he not coming out and claiming that ball? If that was at the other end of the pitch and that was a ball in Newcastle's area, Nick Pope is catching that ball. It's absolutely disgraceful from De Gea. And I know he made some very good saves today, which is what he does. But every single good save that David De Gea made today was from a shot or a header inside his 6-yard box again. Every single one of them. The phenomenal save from Joelinton at the back post. Header inside the 6-yard box that he should have dealt with. The header from Isak, even in the first half. I'm not saying he should have dealt with that. That was a good move. But it still would have been another header in the 6-yard box if that one would have gone in. And he was very lucky that Willock hit the rebound straight at him. But how many warning signs do you need before you then make the change? And for me, you can't accept goalkeeping like that. And again, the stat will say another header inside the 6-yard box from a set piece against Manchester United. And as far as I'm concerned, they can say what they want about who was on the pitch defensively. That, every single time, is goalkeeper's ball. But at the end of the day, that second goal didn't matter because we weren't going to score today. We just weren't going to score today the way we played. It was an absolutely disgusting performance from start to finish. To be honest, we're lucky to be sitting here talking about a 2-0 defeat rather than a 5 or 6-0 defeat once again, because Newcastle had so many chances. Willock missed he missed the open goal after the Isak header. He then had a chance at the back post where if he just kept it under control, he would have buried it. We should have been 2 or 3-0 down by half time. Into the second half, we had those other chances. The save from De Gea that went onto the bar when Cher then heads it onto the post. That should have been a penalty to Newcastle because Bruno kicked Cher in the head. I don't understand how VAR didn't look at that. They were too busy looking at whether Martial handballed it on the goal line, but obviously it hit the post. So that should have been a penalty, and that would have been another goal for Newcastle. And we end the day with one shot on target, which was essentially a pass back from Anthony to Nick Pope as he tried to hit one of his usual whips in the far corner as he once again cut inside on his left foot and tried to do it all by himself. I am very, very frustrated with the amount of effort and the amount of quality that I have seen from Manchester United today. And what's worse is in the space of 4 weeks, we've gone from a situation where it could have been argued, and I'm going to say that loosely, it could have been argued that we were in a title race. Now, 5 games later, we're hanging on to a top 4 spot. And we have got some very tough away games to come. We must, and I must reiterate it, we must win every home game from now until the end of the season. Because we have got some incredibly tough away games coming up. We've got to go to Brighton. We've got to go to West Ham. We've got to go to Tottenham. These are all games that are going to be super, super hard to win away from home. And they showed a stat before full time against the other teams in and around us, the top 9 teams, so the top 2 and then the teams around us. We have played 7 and we have lost 7. And like I said, we have still got to go to Tottenham. We've still got to go to Brighton. That is a very worrying thing to say going into the final run to the end of the season. And we cannot sit here and say, it's fine because we're going to win the Europa League and we'll get Champions League that way. That should not be the attitude. The attitude should be, we get top 4 and we win the Europa League. Because trust me, getting 4th will be easier than winning the Europa League. Sevilla are no pushovers. Juventus and Sporting Lisbon are no pushovers. And whoever we face in the final will deserve to be there. And they will not be pushovers either. So massive work needs to be done. We have another game in midweek. And we need to be ready for that. It's not an easy game, once again. So massive work needed to be done in training over the next few days. And it is very, very, very concerning right now. Because if we get outran and we get outworked again, we will struggle to win again. Because, like I say, that is 5 out of the last 6 games where lack of effort has almost, and for the most part, cost us a lot of points and a lot of matches. And if it's not turned around the next 2 or 3 days, we might not be in the top 4. And that is a real, real concern. So, as always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I I try not to go on too much of a rant in these things. I think I've done very well not to swear in this one, so if that's not worth a like, then I don't know what is. But I'll be back for my next reaction after the next game. I'll be back on the channel, I think either tomorrow morning or Tuesday morning for the next round of predictions. So I will see you then. Thank you very much for watching.